Monsters and Siggies.
Next to a Capri Sun is a Siggy. All right, you ready?
Sure.
Let's do it. Hey, everybody. Dom Tibbetts, Matt Bove. Look where we are. Look at this place, Matt.
This is beautiful. This is a little too fancy. I feel uncomfortable because it is so nice.
I feel like we're in like a deep, like upper high-rise Manhattan Spotify studio right now, like getting ready to rip a mixtape, but we're not.
No, we're across from the post office in downtown Buffalo.
And some say it's just as scenic, honestly. Yeah. But we are getting ready for the Bills versus the Lions on Sunday, 4:25 kickoff. It's a Super Bowl preview. Like, the Bills might downplay it a little bit. I'm sure the Lions downplay it as being another game, Matt. But let's just be so for real. It is a Super Bowl preview.
I think from a betting standpoint, they are the favorites in their respective conferences to make the Super Bowl. I know the Lions are the favorite in the NFC, and I believe the Bills are actually the favorite to make it to the Super Bowl. It's either the Bills or the Chiefs. I don't know which team is ahead.
I was just looking at the lines. The Chiefs are like plus 550 or 500. The Bills are plus 6. I think before the Rams game,
that makes sense.
It would have been Lions-Bills.
So, listen, it's a big game, and I do legitimately think that this is a potential Super Bowl preview, but obviously a long way to go. It's probably a safe bet that one of them is playing in the Super Bowl. Probably the better bet from like a Vegas standpoint would be the Lions.
Yeah.
But I think that these two teams are really, really good, and I think you can make the argument that they're the two best teams in football.
I don't know how you view when you go into this, right? So the Lions offense, the Bills offense, two of the best in terms of the entire NFL.
Yeah.
The Bills just put up 42 points, but still found a way to lose. The Lions, we've seen them put up 50 multiple times throughout the season. It almost feels like it's too obvious that these offenses are going to go kind of toe for toe with each other, clash. Do you almost feel like maybe there's an offensive letdown in this game, that maybe defense is going to have to be the story of whoever comes out on top in this?
Normally, I would say yes. Normally, I say when everybody zigs, you should zag, especially if there's like, financial tie to it, right? You take the under when everybody else is taking the over. Not in this one, though. I think that these offenses are just going to light the defenses up, and I think that this is going to be a boat race between these two teams. And I don't know what the number is, but it feels like high 30s is almost the floor from what I'm expecting. I would be really surprised if either of these teams, if both of these teams don't get to 30.
The only reason why I still have a little bit of hesitation, I've always thought that the Bills defense matches up pretty well in terms of how they defend the pass against Jared Goff. Because you take Jared Goff versus Josh Allen.
Sure.
It is Josh Allen. He is the better quarterback. That's who everybody and their mother is going to ask to play quarterback. I just think the ground attack between David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs poses a much bigger threat than it is with James Cook, Ray Davis, and Ty Johnson in that side of the backfield here. Defensively for the Bills, they just got their teeth kicked in.
Sure.
So, it's very rare you're going to see a Sean McDermott team not respond after a massive letdown. Like maybe the Texans game this year, right, after they kind of get beat pretty bad in Baltimore by Derrick Henry. Yeah. They come back, respond, even though it was a loss with Houston, and then they go and win 7 straight from that point here, too. Do you feel like Bills' defense is in a better position just because, hey, we can't let what happened last week in Los Angeles happen again?
I think to a certain extent, yes. But that said, there are still some personnel questions with the Bills defense that I'm a bit concerned about. So we were recording this on Thursday. The Bills were not able to practice today, which is why we're doing this, because we were both supposed to go out to practice. And on their injury report, which is an estimation because it was just a virtual walkthrough, a lot of the guys couldn't get to the facility. But Taylor Rapp, listed as a DNP, did not participate. Rasul Douglas, listed as a DNP. And Damar Hamlin, also on the injury report. So now all of a sudden, 3 of your 4 starting members of the secondary are on the injury report, and they're on the injury report on Thursday. That's a bit concerning for the Bills because safe bet is somebody is going to end up missing this game. I think the biggest loss would be Rasul Douglas, especially for the Lions when they've got Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams. And Patrick has been a nice addition for them since they got him from Denver earlier in the offseason. So I feel like they've got firepower in the passing game, even though when you think of the Lions offense, you think of the running backs, and you probably think of Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown before you get to any of those other guys.
I think the biggest thing, I look for the Lions defensively, and it sucks, but Aiden Hutchinson going down earlier is a massive lift for the Bills, really for anybody who is going to get the Detroit Lions after this. Bills defensively, with Rasul, we don't know what his status is going to be for Sunday. Sean McDermott alluded to it yesterday. He was talking about how it's probably Jamarcus Ingram's role to step up now, which I think is a big topic in of itself.
I was going to say maybe. I don't know if I buy it completely, to be honest.
So maybe a little competitive advantage.
I think it's Kyer. I think that when they needed to get somebody in for Christian Benford, when he missed, I believe, the Dolphins game, Kyer Elam was the one that got the snaps. And I know that you could say, well, what happened in the game? Why wouldn't they just go to Jamarcus Ingram? He's been the one who's active. Kyer has been inactive. I don't know if this is a little bit of like mental gymnastics that they're trying to make Kyer like, hey, this is you got to come earn this starting job.
Right.
It's not just going to be given to you. I have thought, though, in the past, Kyer Elam has done a fine job when called upon. I mean, he's started for them in playoff games for the Bills.
I was going to say the wild. When you said the Dolphins, I was like, oh, are you talking about the Skylar Thompson wild card game? Because, I mean, Skylar Thompson, I know that's not the game you were referencing now, but I always think back to that game. And I know it's a couple years ago.
He did have an interception in that game, too, Kyer Elam.
And Skylar Thompson was running the offense well against the Buffalo Bills in 2022 in that playoff stretch in the divisional game, or the wild card round, of it. So I always thought that it would be Elam too, but Sean McDermott says Jamarcus Ingram. And then this year, Jamarcus Ingram has a huge pick six down in Miami against the Dolphins in the week 2 game. So I don't know where they go. I could see how you're doing the mental gymnastics here, kind of a little bit of a competitive advantage again, as they say. But safety-wise, Rapp and Hamlin both can't go. Like your level of concern definitely has to raise another notch there too, because then you're Cole Bishop and is you slide Cam Lewis back?
Micah Hyde? No, I'm just kidding. I think it's still a little too early for Micah Hyde. I really do. Micah Hyde.
We made it 8 minutes into this until Matt said Micah Hyde.
Well, Micah Hyde is back on the practice squad, right? So he can be elevated. They can do it 3 times before he's going to go on the active roster. They only have 4 games left. So with injuries to both safety positions, it would not be unrealistic. But what's unrealistic is that dude came off the couch. He has been working out, but he got skinny, Micah Hyde. Like he said, he wants to put on some weight. Deion Dawkins says he's got to go eat some pizza or something to put on the weight.
Yeah, he's eating too many avocados.
That's what he said. He's very California. So I feel like Micah Hyde is probably still a little bit away from coming out and playing. So if that's going to be the case, then I would think maybe you elevate Kareem Jackson. He's been here for the year off the practice squad. Maybe you have Cam Lewis fill in there. I would bet, though, like Damar Hamlin pops up on the injury report. Taylor Rapp finished the last game. So it's not impossible that either of those guys, if not both of those guys, play in this game. The one I'm probably a bit more concerned about, though, is Russell Douglas, because he came back into the Rams game and then had to leave and never finished. Taylor Rapp got injured, went back into the game, finished the game. So that's usually a good sign.
And then let's talk offense, Matt, because I think when you talk about a game that could be a shootout and the potential that it is here, offense is key. I think for the Bills, they have to find the run game again. I think that's why you made it so one-dimensional against the Rams. And not saying it was really
worked.
a bad
thing.
They
scored 42 points.
It did. I was going to get to that point, is it worked. But you also can keep a more talented defense, more talented team like Detroit kind of on their heels defensively. If you're able to get James Cook, get Ray Davis, get the ground game going a little bit more. I love the way they've used Ty Johnson this year out of the backfield, mostly in the pass game. I think he's been great too. But I think if you're Joe Brady, find a way to get the Bills run game involved a little bit more here, because I think with the unsurety, thinking Keon comes back there too, your unsurety is like, okay, Amari's still going to be you're one of your guys you're going to go to. You're going to have to look for Dawson Knox and Matt Collins. But I also think like you sprinkle in a little bit of that run-centric offense that the Bills have been successful with in those first 7 or the 7-game win streak they had leading up to the Rams loss last week. I think you're going to find success there.
Here's my balance and issue to an extent with the run game. And I do think that they've done a better job running the ball this year. But my frustration is in recent memory. So they're not able to run the ball against a not great run defense in Los Angeles. That was one of the ways I thought the Bills would be able to attack LA. And they really never were able to. Against the 49ers, the Bills ran all over them. I don't know if that was a combination of weather or if the Bills just had a really good day. Probably a little bit of everything. Against the Chiefs the week prior, I was so fed up watching the Bills on every 1st and 10 turn around and hand it to James Cook for a 1-yard gain or no gain, and then it'd be 2nd and 10 or 2nd and long.
You're just
playing from behind the whole time. So it feels like the run game, while it has been effective, has become a bit too predictable. They run it on early downs, and then they throw it, and then they throw it again if they have to. If they're getting chunk plays on 1st down in the run game, then of course that's exactly what you want to see. You want to be able to turn around, hand it to James Cook, he gets 4 or 5 yards, and all of a sudden it's 2nd and 5, 2nd and 6, and you really feel comfortable there. But when you do it on 1st down and you don't get anything, now you're basically taking any chance of running the ball out for the next 2 plays. And then if you don't have a completion on second down, now all of a sudden it's 3rd and 10. You let the defensive pass rush get to you because you're going to hold onto the ball for that much longer. So it's just a little bit of a slippery slope. I understand the concept of running the ball more, but it's hard for me to suggest that because they just scored 42 points.
Yeah, I'm also hoping in terms of like
Sean
trying
McDermott
to find
feels the same way as you. Sean McDermott 100% agrees with what you were saying. He thinks that they need to run the ball more.
We're both big trust the process guys.
Yeah, exactly. Big process guys.
I also just like, man, I just always go back to, it's not because we cover a team in Buffalo, but like, again, I think you saw it last week. When you have this kind of game with the implications that really don't mean anything in terms of like the Bills' playoff future, just more for seeding, I guess, given the fact they've clinched. I always go back to like, it kind of almost refutes my statement a little bit, but Josh Allen, his role in this game is ever so more important, almost like it was in the Rams game in the second half last week. It's basically that Josh has to play throughout this whole week.
Well, because
this whole game.
You're not counting on the defense to really do a ton in this game, partially because the defense didn't look great last week. And the bigger part here is that the Lions offense is really, really, really good. So you're like, okay, the Lions are going to score their points. Can the Bills keep up with them? And I do think that they can, but it does put more pressure on the offense knowing that you've only got a couple punts in you. And then after that, you've probably got to convert on almost every time you're on the field in some way, shape, or form, getting points. So that's one of the reasons why there is a bit of concern that the Bills might not be able to keep up in a track meet with an offense as balanced as the Lions have. But I think they'll be able to. I really do think one of the other advantages the Bills have, not like a huge advantage, but the Lions play a similar type of offense to what the Rams do. I'm not saying they're similar, like they do the exact same thing, but a lot of the concepts are fairly similar, and that's something a lot of the players talked about with us this week, right?
Listen to that.
Okay, so Taron Johnson talked about it. It's not crazy. They can do some similar things. They just don't run the same. You know what I mean? Like the Lions are a bit more run heavy, and the Rams are a bit more I shouldn't even say pass heavy because Kyron Williams touched the ball a ton in that game against the Bills. So yeah, I mean, I think that having this game come after that game might not be a bad thing for the Bills, and also like they're probably a bit embarrassed with how they played, and they're going to want to correct and prove to everybody. The last time they played on a big stage was, I mean, every game in the NFL is a big stage, but they played the Chiefs in that game, and CBS has got the show outside of the stadium before the game, and it's the biggest game of the year and everything. This game is maybe not that, but it's right there. So they show up in these games, and I think we'll see a better version of the defense because of that.
See, I understand where you're coming from. I'd almost say in terms of an NFL game of the year, I mean, again, it goes back to how I opened up what we're doing. It's a Super Bowl preview. In my eyes, that's a bigger game in terms of a national spotlight, in terms of what it could mean moving forward. I think the Bills-Chiefs is so big because it's the storyline of like Bills in the regular season. They beat the Chiefs. They still can't get it done in the playoffs. The Lions-Bills regular season game goes out the window if Kansas City and Buffalo are playing in an AFC championship, maybe probably at Arrowhead this year, I think, right? So
I just think that it's Allen and Mahomes. It has become one of the most interesting rivalries in all of sports, and I think that game will always be, to me, up here, and then everything else. Like, this game matters. This game is super important, but it's an AFC team against an NFC team. Both teams already, we know, are going to the playoffs. There's not a whole lot at stake depending on the outcome, right? Like, the Lions probably can afford to slip up once. The Bills probably can't slip up. So if the Bills lose, the conversation shifts to, you're not going to be the 1 seed, but you better get the 2 seed now. That's basically what will happen if the Bills lose. If the Lions lose, the conversation will be, okay, you got your 1 slip up. Now you got to run the table in these last 3 because you've got a couple teams in your division hot on your tail.
One more thing before we wrap it up, Matt. We do this on every Saturday Sportscast when we're traveling. We always do some sort of an X Factor, our previews before the games.
We do, yes.
What is we can give the fans a little taste, probably what we're talking about throughout this weekend as you and I travel to Detroit. What is your X factor for the Bills?
So if he plays, it's Dwayne Smoot, because Dwayne Smoot was a good player before he got injured, and they've missed him. And he certainly talked at practice this week like a guy who thinks he's going to play. Now, that said, they would have to do some roster gymnastics to get him back, and that's not just as easy as, hey, you're off IR. They would have to move on from somebody or cut somebody or figure something out. So I don't know what they're going to do. So he is my tentative player to watch. And then defensively, I'll also say Terrell Bernard. This is a team that does a lot. to attack the middle of the field. I think you need Terrell Bernard to have a big game, and I think you need to have him be kind of the real difference maker when it's Gibbs who's got the ball, when it's Montgomery who's got the ball, when they're trying to get Laporte in the middle of the field. So he'll be my guy.
My guy is defense. I'm also thinking defense too. It's Ed Oliver. It's because we just have not seen the 2023 Ed this year. It is about time. 91 starts doing some of these big implications, makes big plays that are actually not even necessarily big splash plays, but are going to help guys around him, help Greg Rousseau and Von Miller and AJ Epinesa create pressure around the edge. You can't let a team like Detroit. What was the final? I don't even know what the third down stat was for the Rams after
They
this
were like
game.
11 for 15, but
That's crazy.
But that number was even a little bit inflated because one of them was the last play that they ran before they punted the ball, where they were trying to run out the clock.
Right.
One of them was at the end of the first half, and one of them was early in the first half where it was 3rd and goal. The Bills stopped him, and then they kicked a field goal. So like they were clipping it mostly like an 85% success rate for most of that game.
And that can't happen again.
No,
you
it
cannot
can't.
have that happen, especially against the Detroit Lions. And this is taking nothing away from the Rams. We saw that's a
the
team that
Rams
was
are
backed
good.
up against the wall. They were desperate, just like how Buffalo had to match up against Miami, and Tua almost came in here and won. And then how they had to match up against Brock Purdy. The 49ers were just so beat up. So that can't happen against the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are way too good of a team. The third down stops have to be there. And I think that starts with Ed Oliver helping stop the run game, helping guys create pressure, getting Jared Goff uncomfortable, force him out of the pocket a little bit. It's one of the best in terms of just completion percentage this whole year. Get him uncomfortable, get him out of the pocket, take them out of their rhythm. And I think the Bills are going to find some way to find some success here.
What do you think? Give me your prediction. We're still a couple days out, so there is more that can happen. Like if we find out, hey, none of the Bills starting secondary is playing, like obviously that would be a big blow. But what's your prediction? Because I said the same thing for the last 2 weeks, and I'll say it again, but I'll let you go first.
I'm going to go 38-35 Buffalo. Because I've always, and it's not trying to keep the recency out of it, I have always said the Bills would beat Detroit in Detroit.
Well, my point to that is I said for the last week and a half that I could see the Bills losing to the Rams and then responding with a win to Detroit, because it feels like sometimes this team slips up when you don't expect them to slip up, and then they bounce back. The Bills have historically been a very good December team. This Lions team is as good as any team that they have had to play in the regular season in December over the last several years. I think their offense is electric, but Josh Allen is just playing at a different level right now. So I like your score. I'm going to say, though, a little bit lower scoring.
Okay.
I'm going to go Bills 35, Lions 33.
Okay.
Weird score because I like picking slightly
I
weird
like that.
scores.
You're almost going for like a scorigami Bove over here, basically.
Did we see a scorigami the other day in Los Angeles?
I believe that was a scorigami.
All right,
Yeah.
I love a good scorigami.
Who doesn't, guys? Scorigamis are the best. All right, 4:25 kickoff on Sunday. The Buffalo Bills take on the Detroit Lions in a big regular season matchup. Some are calling it a Super Bowl preview.
I just want to say, shout out to everybody who put together this fancy set up here at Channel 7. It's not even close to being done. We have more lights that are coming in. This background, we're going to be able to change the colors on it.
Which is going to be so insane.
Yeah, so it's going to look really, really sick. So we are excited to continue to show you this. But this is kind of our maiden voyage with the new set. We need a name for the set, though, because right now it's upstairs extra room set.
Yeah, we'll let me think about that.
We'll
I don't want to
brainstorm.
come with that on the spot here. Let me think on that. All right, that's Matt. I'm Dom. We'll see you guys.